So Adam is crushing it. He just had, I think it was $112,000 a month. And what he's struggling with now is basically time management. Like there's just too much going on. His social media is webbing long, but he has found that he's been burnt out by it. And of course, the business is going great. He's making over $100,000 a month, right? And so Adam is in our mentorship, and we've helped him get up to this point. And in this call, what you hear is basically the importance of building in a stepwise fashion. You can't necessarily build your business and your social media at the same time. You've got to give seasons to both. And in this conversation, you're going to hear a little bit more about that between Adam and I hope that it really helps you kind of figure out what you want to focus on right now. And that doesn't mean that you can't focus on the other thing in the future. Hope that this helps. I'll be back afterwards to recommend another episode. Adam, my friend, you are up. So,
Hey,
Adam, same thing, real quick. If you can just talk about who you are, who you serve, and what we're talking about today, and we'll dig into it. And Corey, I'm just going to
yeah.
mute you.
So my name is Adam, and I basically work with people. I call myself an anti-diet culture coach. I really work with people trying to help them learn to escape all the toxic diet culture trends and videos on the internet. I try and teach people how to like eat more intuitively and just love their body and move it because it feels good. And I really try and make people feel confident in their process and their journey, and not get derailed by not doing things perfectly. And I've been pretty successful in that space. I've got a TikTok with more than 1 million followers. I've got like 150,000 on YouTube and 100,000 on Instagram. So I'm pretty happy with like my following and kind of like the platform I've been able to build. I guess the biggest thing I'm here for, John, is like I want to take advantage of that platform, and I feel like I've done a pretty decent job. But I just feel like I could do so much more.
Right.
And I want to, and maybe that's just me putting my expectations like higher than they should be. But, I just feel like I don't like leaving money on the table. I don't like leaving, it's just, I want to take advantage of everything that's in front of me. So
I kind of
hoping,
want to go like a philosophical route here a little bit, and
please.
then we can get more into the weeds. I think we'll be able to do both. One of the things you said, I knew how I was gonna like kind of respond to you, and then you said something. I was like, ooh, I want to talk about that first. This idea of like, I don't want to have to leave. I don't want to feel like I'm leaving money on the table. I would think about where that comes from quite a bit. Being in a position where you're able to leave money on the table is a phenomenal position to be in from a business sense. It's a power position, and people sense that. The easiest way to make a sale is when you don't need a sale. It's a really nice way to do business. And I don't know whether like it brings us to the question of how much is enough for you at any one time. And then there's also the existential crisis and thought of like, oh, this is all going to go away, so I need to capture as much of it as possible before this all disappears. First of all, it's not all going to disappear, but this idea of what is enough at any one given time, I think, is a very important question to think about, because it'll dictate your next actions. You're doing well. I know. I mean, I see how much you're making, what you tell your coaches. Like, it's great, right? But if you have 37 plates of pasta, you don't really need a 38. And so then the question becomes, why do I feel like I need to make more? And at what point does that goal line stop moving? Because it never will unless you really ask. I'm not saying you're there yet or you're not there yet. I have no idea. Right. But at what point does that goal line stop moving? More for the sake of more is just this impossible path that you can kind of get on. So I don't know where that is. with you, but I think it's possibly worth thinking about. Okay. I think the best way to operate a business in this day and age and moving forward is a philosophy called that I call whales and minnows, which is just a metaphor where you serve the whales, you feed the minnows. The whales are the people who pay you a lot for your services. The minnows are people who either are free or there is no expectation of service with what you sell them. So a lot of people get this wrong and they go free or expensive, or they go cheap or expensive. I don't think you should go cheap, because in a lot of ways, when you go cheap with a low-end membership or stuff like that, there's an expectation of service. All right. One of the reasons why I like writing books, for example, there's no expectation of service. Somebody buys a book. If you respond, if they send you a message, great, it's a nice thing to do, but nobody's expecting you to like help them more. And also, if you use content from a book on social media and other places, nobody gets mad at you. If you run like a low-end membership site or something like that, and you use the content that's supposed to be behind a paywall on the front end, people get upset. So this idea of whales and minnows, I think, is something that you can start thinking about. I mean, you've got these big platforms, which are wonderful. You're doing really well. Do you need to build something different? Or is it better to continue to grow the high-end service that you have and basically say to everybody else that can't afford it yet, no problem. Please continue to enjoy my free content. If you're ever ready to work with me in a greater capacity, I'd love to hear from you. Think about the power position there. Now, all of a sudden, people are like preparing to work for you. It's like their goal to work with you over the years, not work for you, work with you over years. They're like building up to that. So the idea is you feed the minnows as much as possible until they grow into whales. And it creates this flywheel. You know, you think about this mentorship that we have, it's not a cheap mentorship. And it does well. And we don't run a single paid advertisement, and we have never run a single paid advertisement. Look at our competitors. They're blasting you with ads 24/7. That's the difference. That's the difference between the two. And their businesses might make more money. I don't know. But they are wildly complicated to run. They're way more stressful. They're way more expensive, and their profit margins are way less. And so again, there's no right or wrong. So talk to me about how this lands. What are your first thoughts, like knee-jerk thoughts?
Yeah, no, it's actually a really good thing to think about, because I do find myself constantly looking and thinking about like what's happening next. How am I going to grow this channel? How am I going to grow that channel? You know, what new 20 clients am I going to try and sign up this month?
Right.
And what ends up happening is what I'm going through right now, which is like a major burnout. And so I'm like, you know, I don't even want to make content. Like, I don't care about this right now. I don't want to talk about, you know, prices. Like, if
Right.
somebody doesn't want to sign up, fine, go ahead. I don't care. I have other
Yeah.
people. I don't like that. You know, I don't like feeling like that. I want to help everyone that I can. I love making content. Like, that's just kind of what I do. And I don't want to end up resenting it because in my constant quest for more. So yeah, I mean, I think it is wise to think like, you know, when is enough enough? Like, when will I be happy? When will I be satisfied?
Right.
So that I can get back to the things that bring me joy, and I can get back to, you know, taking care of me and like prioritizing my self-care and my family.
Right.
And
why did I start this in the first place, right?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So that's actually a very poignant thought. I appreciate it.
There's three things I want to hit on real quick. Number one, if you need to take time off from social media, you can always take time off from social media. It'll be there when you get back. A lot of people, particularly people who built big audiences, feel like it's going to like do something to the algorithm if they don't post for 2 or 3 or 4 weeks. It won't. In fact, what has often happened whenever I've done it or whenever I've spoken to friends who have taken, extended periods of time off, is they actually find that what they do works way better. I think largely because they're just energetically more there. They're rested, they're recovered. They're energetically more there. So number one, if you need to take a little bit of time off, obviously don't do it like every second month, but you can. I wouldn't be worried about it. The second is that, which one do I want to talk about first? There are very few people who have the combination of a large social media platform and a good business. It actually, it's unbelievably rare. Most people, you see all these people, it's like they have 500,000 followers. It's like, sign up, buy the supplement with my coupon code. It's like, yo, that's the best you can do. And the reason for that is the way to build up a large social media account is to become a glorified entertainer. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just now you're an entertainer and you're playing the entertainer's game, which means that nobody really trusts you as somebody or thinks of you as somebody who has this high-end expertise to help them with a thing. They just think you're fun to look at or entertaining or whatever. Right? What you've been able to do is you've been able to build up an expert platform audience and build a business at the same time. It's really rare. Really, really rare. Everybody who has a big business wants to be an Instagram and social media celebrity, and everybody who's a social media celebrity wants to build a big business. And the reason why it's so rare is it's almost impossible to do both at the same time. We're not Gary Vee. The dude's a mutant. And to try to act like we are, first of all, he's been doing it for like 30 years. But to try to act like we are, I think is a mistake. So there's 2 quick points I want to hit on just to leave you something to think about. Number one, a massive advantage for people who are building content platforms is to not need business. But you have to accept that you're building your social media platforms and then you're grabbing that audience and you're taking it away from social media platforms onto an email list, podcast, something like that. That's like deeper than quick hit snippets, TikToks, whatever. If you want to do that, I mean, that's what I'm doing, but I could optimize business way more than I am. But that's what I've chosen to do. And I gave myself 3 years to do it. But that has to be like a choice, and you have to be okay with the repercussions of it, like the trade-offs of it. Like, I don't think it's wrong or right. But it is a big advantage to be able to do that. The second is to kind of look at this like there's seasons. I have found that it is impossible to optimize more than one thing at once. With business, I can put things on maintenance mode, but I can't optimize more things than one. But so what I do is I look at it as seasons. So the human body works on a homeostatic set point. And whatever level of fitness that we're at, that's kind of the set point that we're at, right? We all kind of understand that basic principle. To get away from that, either to become much more fit or much less fit, actually takes a significant amount of effort. But it's pretty easy to stay at that level. Like once you get into good shape, it's actually relatively easy to stay there or return back there, which is why before and after photos are usually such a sham. It's usually somebody who was ripped at one point, right? Who basically got out of shape, and then to get back into shape is way easier than to get there in the first place. Well, to me, business works the same way. Once you get to a certain level of revenue, once you get to a certain level of content and production, it's relatively easy to maintain that. But it takes a lot of effort in actually a very short, very tight bit of time in order to jump up to the next level. And so what I do is I look at them as seasons. And instead of trying to go everything at once, I say, for this season, usually it's a month, maybe 2 months, I'm putting a lot of concentrated, very focused effort into this one thing. And then the next season, I'm going to let that thing more or less run. In my case, it's basically just repurposing content. It's like, I'm just not making new content for the next month. I'm just going to take stuff that's more than a month old and I'm just going to repost it.
That's what I've been doing for months to try and avoid this burnout.
So it's fine, right?
Yeah.
So that's fine. And you're not going to get the same level of growth for sure. And then you go into another season where you're pushing hard and you get growth again. And it's the same with the business. So what I'll do is I'll do the social media and I'll put it on, let's say, put it on back burner, right? Still means it's going, but it's on the back burner. Okay, let's crank forward on the book, or let's crank forward on the networking, whatever. And I'll just like start having phone calls with 2 or 3 people a day and just reconnecting with industry friends for that like month period of time. So so all of this to say, it's very helpful for me to look at this process as being one where, in reference that homeostatic set point, as being one where for very short, intense periods, I'm trying to really improve in this one thing and jump that forward while leaving everything else on maintenance, knowing that there's going to be time for that other stuff to push that forward.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful. I feel like I put so much pressure on myself to constantly optimize everything all at once and try and get better at one thing or the other. And I think part of it is because not only is it's not just me, but I also have like my team that work for me, and like I feel like I have to provide for them and like get them, clients.
Right.
So I just feel like I have to do everything, and it's resulting in me doing probably less quality things as a whole. So this will be helpful for me to just go, okay, it's okay. I don't need to sign up 80% of the people that come through my way. I was just starting, or if I was like a smaller, had a smaller following, maybe I would need to get that up. But like, if I miss a few, it's fine. It's really fine.
And if you let your team take some of the calls and they miss a few, that's fine too. Right?
Yeah.
Adam, thank you so much, man. Thanks for being open and honest.
Yeah. Thanks.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for listening to that episode with Adam. What a fun conversation with somebody who's doing really well and kind of feeling the pressures of doing well, right? It's not something that you hear about often. And I think it has a lot of applicability for people at every stage of their journey as well, figuring out what do I do now? So like I said at the beginning, before we got into the episode, that was a hot seat call from my mentorship. Now, if you work in fitness or nutrition and you really want to scale up, then please send me a DM on Instagram that just says mentor, and we can have a conversation to see if my mentorship's right for you. If you're looking for another episode to listen to right now, I'm going to recommend episode 79. This episode is called Get Big Advantages with Sam. Now, in the tech world, there's this concept called TAM, Total Available Market. And the idea here is you try to appeal to the biggest possible market. Well, what Adam's done, and what I recommend for the vast majority of people who would ever listen to this podcast but work in health and fitness and anything online really, is actually to appeal to Sam, to the smallest available market. Sounds counterintuitive. If this seems interesting, something you might benefit from, I recommend you check out this episode. It's episode 79, Get Big Advantages with Sam. Just scroll back in wherever you're listening to this episode and check that out right now. Have a listen, and I'll be back again soon. Thanks so much.